Welcome to the Book Lab. I'm your Book Lab partner, Anna, and today I'm going to tell you about the 8 books I've read from January through March. This is my first time doing like a wrap-up, so I'm excited to do this for you guys. 8 books in 3 months is actually pretty impressive for me, but like, don't be too impressed. 5 of them were for school, so like, does it really count? I don't know. You can decide. Before I get into the millions of books I read for school, because I'm an English major and that's what happens when you take 2 English classes at once. The first book that I finished this year, even though it took me like a month to read, like I started it on Christmas Eve last year and I didn't finish it until the end of January. So it took me over a month to read this book. For various reasons, but that book is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy, the one that starts with the 5th season. This took me so long for a myriad of reasons. For one, I was mostly reading it when I was at school, and I was really only reading a chapter or 2 at a time, and there was often before bed. So like, I was reading it so slowly. It took me so long to read it. But yeah, I gave The Obelisk Gate 4 stars. I thought it wasn't quite as action-packed and exciting as the first book. I thought it was quite a lot slower, like a lot slower paced. But like, tension was definitely building. Things were building. The pace felt a little slower, but I still really liked the characters. One of the side characters introduced in this book, Ika, I don't know how to say her name. She's like the leader of this like town that Essen, the main character, spends basically this entire book in. She's really cool. I liked Ika a lot. I will read the 3rd book. Best believe I will read the 3rd book soon, hopefully. The 3rd book is The Stone Sky, and I will read it. I just need the motivation. I wanted to have a break, because I feel like part of why it took me so long to read The Obelisk Gate was because I read it like so soon after the first one. And then school. It was mostly school. And you'll see why now. So the first book I read for school is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Original author unknown, but this version is translated by Simon Armitage. This is an Arthurian legend about a young knight named Gawain, who takes up the challenge of this mysterious Green Knight that shows up to Camelot's Christmas celebrations. And the knight's like, yo, if anyone is brave enough to attack me and deal with the consequences of being dealt the same stroke in a year, step forward. And like, none of the other knights of the round table wanted to, because they're pussies. Because they were too afraid. Because they weren't actually true, like, knights. And they weren't truly chivalric. King Arthur originally steps up, but then his nephew, Gawain, is like, no, I'll do it. And Gawain chops off the Green Knight's head. The Green Knight picks up his head off the ground as it's like rolling around and the knights are kicking it. Like, really, really chivalrous people. And he's like, you? In 1 year and 1 day, I'm gonna cut off your head too. And this is about Gawain's journey, mostly about his stay in this castle inhabited by this lord and his lady, and the trials and tribulations he faces there. That's the story. It's not very long, it's in verse, it has the Old English translation and then the modern English translation. I actually really enjoyed reading this. Surprisingly, I enjoyed this a lot. I gave this 4 stars, but not like the same 4 stars I gave The Obelisk Gate. Like, this is 4 stars for a required reading for class. It was enjoyable, I liked reading it, it was fast. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. If you're interested in like Arthurian legends or like classics that are in verse, but like they seem really scary, like Paradise Lost, this one's not scary. At least this translation by Simon Armitage is not scary, because it's Fun to read. Gawain, 4 stars. Next we have The Tempest by William Shakespeare. This is actually the first time I've ever had to read a Shakespeare play for homework, like for class. Like in high school, we watched a film adaptation of Hamlet. We never like actually read the script. But this time we got to read The Tempest. This is about this guy, Prospero, who was the former Duke of Milan. He was exiled with his daughter to this random island in the Mediterranean. That island is inhabited by Caliban and Ariel, who is like a spirit of the island. And Caliban is basically Prospero's slave, but they don't say that. And then the people who helped usurp Prospero show up on the island and things happen. This was 3 stars. It was fine. It was kind of boring. It's Shakespeare. It's hard to read. It's hard to understand. I did listen to like a casted recording, like with different actors doing different voices while I was also reading it. So that helped make it a lot more manageable. Way more manageable than just reading it with my eyes. Yeah. Not the best. I thought our discussion of the play was more interesting than the actual play itself. And to follow that up, we read an adaptation of The Tempest called A Tempest by Amy Césaire. This is an adaptation for Black theater from the 60s, I believe. This is an adaptation of the same story I just told you about, except Prospero is just full-on an asshole. No nuance or anything there. He just sucks. And Caliban and Ariel are explicitly called slaves, and the ending is different in this one. I gave this 3.5 stars because it's better than the original. It's way shorter. This whole book is like 70 pages, 69 pages. And it's like, it has actual like critique of colonialism and racism. And because it's from the 1960s, it has way more accessible language. So it's a lot easier to read. Next, we have the first time I've had to reread something for class, and this time I had the absolute pleasure of reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley again. This was so fun to read for a second time, because the first time I read this for the first time like not quite a year and a half ago, but it was like the fall of 2023. That was the first time I read this, and the first time I noticed just like surface level things, you know? The second time I noticed different things. Like I picked up on certain themes. I also highlighted this copy and used pen. So like I have like pencil notes from my like first read, most of which are just like reactions like, oh boy, Victor's brooding again. And the second time around I just noticed different things. And it was really cool. Gave this 4 stars again. I gave it 4 stars last time. But I liked it better the second time around. I think Frankenstein's so good. I love it. It's fantastic. And in case you don't know the plot of Frankenstein, I won't judge you if you don't know. The plot. This guy, Victor Frankenstein, young Swiss nobility. He had a perfect childhood with his mom and his dad and his 2 younger brothers. And then his mom gets sick and she dies. And that is just the end of Victor's happiness. He does not experience a taste of happiness at all, ever, after his mom dies. His mom dies, and to cope with his grief, he decides to, well, after like, you know, dealing with it for a while at home, he goes off to Germany to start university. And he starts getting really into science and natural philosophy, and he decides, you know what, to cope with my fear of death, I'm gonna conquer death and reanimate dead matter and bring it back to life. So he creates this creature, he's terrified of it, he abandons it, and all hell breaks loose. Love Frankenstein. Like I said, 4 stars first time, 4 stars the second time. For my other English class, I actually read a graphic novel, and it is certainly unlike anything I've ever read before. And that graphic novel is United States of Banana, a graphic novel, by Jeannie Nabrashi and illustrated by Joachim Lindengren. This, oh, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like, try to like picture a comic book, graphic novel, art style, right? Do you picture this? Is this what you picture? Do you picture black and white graphite surrealist art with like a million pop culture references and extremely philosophical writing that is hard to understand? That's what this is. That's what United States Banana is. This is a graphic novel adaptation of Brashi's novel by the same name. The novel's from 2011. This is basically like a surrealist story, like centered around the themes of like independence of Puerto Rico and what freedom means, like to them and to the USB, not the USA. It's dense. It's not that easy to understand. If you're interested in like political surrealist graphic novel about Puerto Rico, check it out. It's just hard to get through. It's a little hard to understand. And it was thankfully, because I read this for class and I wasn't reading this completely on my own, it was a lot easier to understand because of like class discussion and lecture. So that helped a lot. I gave this 3.5 stars. Though honestly, it might kind of be more like 3. I don't know. It's just weird. And like, I thought I understood most of it, but then like the end, like the last 20 to 30 pages, I don't know, just kind of lost me for some reason. I don't know if I was just kind of like over it, or if it was just like something changed in the last little bit and I just did not know what was going on, even more so than before. Yeah, it's like the main characters are Giannina, the author. She's one of the main characters. We also have Hamlet from Shakespeare's Hamlet. We have Zarathustra, the philosopher, but specifically Nietzsche's version of Zarathustra. They're saving Segismundo, who is a character from a play, and Segismundo is like a personification of the political like status of Puerto Rico. It's weird. They save Segismundo from prison, where he's imprisoned under the skirts of the Statue of Liberty. It's weird. And that's okay, but it's weird. Yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars because it was interesting. It just kind of lost me at the end. But that's it for all the books I read for class. That was everything I read throughout the term. I did not read any like books for fun in between all that. I mean, because when you're reading 5 books for class, at least for me, I don't have the motivation to read my own stuff. Once I was done with those, I actually started reading stuff for myself. So we're gonna move on to that. So the first book I read for fun, after finishing all my stuff for school and after my brain was no longer mush from philosophy and poetic language and surrealist art, I picked up To the Bright Edge of the World by Eowyn Ivey. This is historical fiction in the epistolary format. So it's told in like diary entries, letters, news clippings, and there's also pictures. There's pictures in a book. Look, there's pictures. This is a dog. This is a dog that's in the story. Love Boyo. It's like, there's pictures. That's so cool. And yeah, there's like also some like poetry and song lyrics and like transcriptions of conversation. Like, this is like epistolary format to the max. Like, Eowyn Ivey was like, how many multimedia things can I put in my historical fiction? And she said all of them. I loved this is the first time I've read something that's like purely in epistolary format. I mean, Frankenstein has some letters. Like, it starts out like with letters between Captain Walton and his sister, but this is all letters, and it's actually mostly diary entries. The plot of this is, it's 1885. Lieutenant Colonel Alan Forrester of the Army. He leads a small group of people up into the Alaskan wilderness, up the Wolverine River, and they're going out there to explore the uncharted area and hopefully have good interactions with the indigenous people there. At the same time, we also have diary entries from his wife Sophie back at the Vancouver barracks in Washington. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The writing is so beautiful in here. But if I was the type of person to tab books, or if I had prettier tabs, there would be tabs in here. Like, there are some absolutely beautiful lines in here. Like, Eamon Ivy, she's a writer. She's beautiful. And like the voices were really distinct between like the different like diary entries and stuff. It was really cool. I will say though, the pacing does feel really slow. It might be because of the epistolary format, or it's like, I don't know, things just move slowly. And like because of like all the jumping back and forth between like Alan and Sophie and their diary entries and the like other miscellaneous things and like the letters like of modern day like Alan's like great nephew or something mailing the owner of this museum in Alaska that he's sending all this stuff to. It feels pretty slow in terms of pace, and because of the epistolary format, the stakes never feel super high because you have to be hearing about them somehow. So obviously they make it. But at the same time, there were some moments where it's like someone else took over writing the diary entries, and I'm like, oh, that's dramatic. Okay, I guess the stakes can be heightened in something in the form of diary entries. All the characters felt really distinct in this, like Alan, Sophie, Tillman, Pruitt, and Sophie. Those are like the main 4 characters, but there's also side characters like Sophie's friend and the girl that helps out in her house. There's an indigenous woman that travels with the men through Alaska. She was cool, though I wish she had a little more exploration. I came to like all the characters a lot, but because of the format, you definitely feel the closest to Alan and Sophie, and like the other characters like Pruitt and Tillman, who are the other 2 on like Alan's team out in Alaska. You don't get like as much like, they don't have quite as much emotional depth because it's not their thoughts directly on the page, or like when they are on the page, it's not for very long. You know, that is something you kind of lose with epistolary, is that you only really get in the mind of one person and not others, and it's different from like regular first person. I don't know. But yeah, 4 stars. Oh, this was beautiful. It was clearly really well researched. Like, this was so interesting. Like, I feel like I learned a lot of stuff about the Alaskan like wilderness and like the indigenous people in Alaska. However true it may be, it still like felt really genuine. And honestly, by the end, I was kind of sad. Like, nothing super sad happens, but like just because of like how things ended and the writing, and it's like, it was sad because it was so beautiful. Yeah, that's To the Bright Edge of the World. I recommend if you're interested in a historical fiction set in Alaska, where they aren't horribly racist. They're pretty chill dudes, which is nice. Check it out. It's cool. Okay, last book. I have 1 book left. I read this in like 26 hours at the beach, and that book is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. This is a Peter Pan retelling, which I did not know. I somehow didn't know that at all, based off of like anything. Like, there's nothing in the synopsis that says that it's a Peter Pan retelling, except like her name is Wendy, there's a boy named Peter, but it's like, I didn't realize it was Wendy Darling until page 1. And I'm like, wait, this is Peter Pan? I somehow did not pick up on that. Anyway, this is like a contemporary supernatural fantasy mystery thing set in Astoria, Oregon, which is kind of like, it's not like on the coast, but like it's basically, it's in the northern Oregon coast. I love the cover. The cover is so pretty. The cover is really dirty for some reason, even though I didn't take this with me. And it's, the main mystery is kind of like these kids go missing in Astoria and they like disappear into the woods. And Wendy's got mad crazy trauma from the woods. I gave this 3.5 stars because there's some things that just bothered me. The main thing being okay, this takes place in Astoria, right? Takes place in Oregon, takes place on the coast. The Oregon coast is famously cold and wet all year round. I lucked out with good weather on the coast when I read this. But it's constantly told to me that it is hot, that Wendy is sweating, that it is so hot in Astoria. And I'm like, this is the Oregon coast. It doesn't get that hot. I mean, I get that, like, it could. And, like, if this took place in Portland or somewhere else in the Willamette Valley, I would definitely believe you if you said that it was a hot summer, because summers get really hot in Oregon. But not on the coast. It distracted me constantly when it was, like, so hot. And I'm like, this is Astoria. And I haven't spent, like, any time in Astoria, and especially not in years, but, like, maybe it'd be hot for, like, a day or two. But constantly, I don't believe you. The Oregon coast does not get sweaty hot. Like, ever. I don't believe you that it's super hot. I don't believe you. That's honestly the biggest gripe I have. That bothered me so bad. There were some other things. The plot was, like, the pacing was pretty slow, especially around the mystery. It felt like it took forever for, like, any big, like, reveals in the mystery to happen. Like, it took a long time. And a lot of things felt repetitive. Like, there were multiple scenes that I felt like happened multiple times. Wendy's, like, spoilers. I'm like, this is, like, it happens in the first chapter that, like, Wendy finds Peter Pan in the woods, and she's like, that's Peter Pan, isn't it? Like, the kid from the stories that I used to tell my brothers, John and Michael, who went missing 5 years ago. This is Peter Pan. But I can't tell anyone that it's Peter Pan because no one will believe me. And everyone hates me because, like, I don't remember what happened in the woods 5 years ago. And it's like, I get that. Like, I get that, like, you know, you're traumatized, you don't want to tell people, but, like, someone's gonna believe you. This is Oregon, babes. And she, like, was so adamant about not believing that this was Peter Pan, or that, like, there wasn't actually magic involved, and I'm like, I feel like, despite your trauma and what you don't remember, I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to sway you. Like, that's my opinion. My opinion. I thought Wendy and Peter were cute as, like, Peter is, like, not a child. He is, like, rapidly growing up. That's, like, part of the whole problem. It was like, Peter Pan's supposed to stay a kid forever, but this is, like, a 19-year-old who's Peter Pan. So it's not weird. They were cute, but the characters did feel a little one-dimensional. Peter's just, like, the cute golden retriever, aloof, cute guy. And Wendy is just an absolute wreck all the time. And, like, no hate to her. But I hit a certain point where I'm like, can you please stop crying? You've had so many mental breakdowns in this book, and I don't think I can stand another one. And oh, look, here comes another one. I didn't feel like she had a whole lot of growth, like emotionally, like, as the main character. Even once she discovers the truth, I feel like that truth is not, like, explored a whole lot. Like, then, like, the truth, the final reveal, is revealed really close to the end, and it just wraps up so fast after that. I'm like, that's a crazy thing you just revealed that I don't really believe, but whatever. I think we need time to sit with that. I think you and your parents need time to sit with that, and we need to see you sit with that. But then it's like, and it's a year later, and I'm at college with my best friend, and, like, I'm assuming you told her what happened, but also you probably didn't. Because, like, Wendy's freaking out, like, the whole time that her best friend Jordan wouldn't believe her. If she's like, yeah, this dude that, like, you only see half the time because he can, like, be invisible to some people. Or this random guy you see me with, that's Peter Pan. And he's helping me find my lost brothers. And it's like, I think if your friend is a true friend, they will believe any weird shit you say. And I believe that. So I didn't believe that she was so afraid to tell her. Whatever. The last thing was that the climax was kind of cliche. And, like, it didn't ever feel like it really hit a high enough emotional peak or high enough pitch. Climax was cliche. The villain said delicious way too many times. I was like, shut up. Like, the villain was very, like, stereotypical let me monologue about my evilness for 3 pages. It's like, okay. I did like it though. 3.5 pages. It was atmospheric, even though I did not believe that Astoria gets that hot. Astoria does not get that hot. You're not convincing me. There was an ample amount of woods in here, as you would hope. This takes place primarily in the woods. Lost in the Neverwoods. 3.5 stars. It was fun, but it bothered me in some ways. Well, that was all 8 books that I've read since January. Thank you so much for stopping by the book lab. If you've read any of these books and you care to share your thoughts, please do. I'd love to have a conversation in the comments. My name is Anna, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!